I'll never forget the phone call that ruined everything. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary. At least, that's what I told myself. But sometimes, the smallest moments can turn your world upside down. My name's Simon, and I don't have a hero's story. I'm not the guy who fights in wars or solves big mysteries. I'm just an ordinary guy with an ordinary job, living an ordinary life with my wife, Ellen. Or, at least, that's how I thought it was. That afternoon, I was working from home, sitting in my makeshift office in the corner of our living room. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Ellen had gone to the grocery store, and I had the place to myself. The sun was starting to dip behind the trees outside, casting a soft orange glow over everything. I was sipping my coffee when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I don't answer calls from numbers I don't recognize, but for some reason, this time, I felt a strange pull to pick up. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was just boredom. Hello. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line, followed by a voice I didn't recognize. A man's voice. Simon, he asked, his tone hesitant, almost nervous. This is Ben. I need to talk to you about Ellen. I froze. My mind raced, but I couldn't form a coherent thought. Ellen? What did this man know about Ellen? Who is this? I asked, my voice shaky despite my efforts to stay calm. I'm sorry. I know this is hard to hear, Ben continued, but I've been seeing your wife, Ellen, and I think it's time you knew the truth. My stomach dropped. The blood drained from my face, and for a moment, I thought I might pass out. The room seemed to spin around me, and I struggled to steady myself. What are you talking about? I managed to croak out, the words barely leaving my mouth. What do you mean? You've been seeing her? Ben sighed, the sound of it thick with regret. She's been with me for a few months now, Simon. We didn't mean for it to happen, but, well, it did. I felt the world collapse around me. I've never been a violent man, but something inside me snapped. I could barely hold the phone to my ear, my hands trembling as if they no longer belonged to me. This was a joke, right? It couldn't be real. Ellen, the woman I'd spent years with, the woman I thought I knew inside and out, was cheating on me. With him. This stranger who had the nerve to call me and tell me like it was just some casual piece of information. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice breaking. Ben hesitated again, and when he spoke, his words felt like a slap across my face. Because I think you deserve to know. Ellen's not the person you think she is. And I don't want you to keep living in the dark, man. I just thought you should hear it from me. The line went dead. I stood there, completely still, for what felt like an eternity. My phone still in my hand, the silence of the room pressing in on me like a suffocating weight. My head was spinning with disbelief. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone against the wall. But I couldn't move. My body was frozen, paralyzed by the flood of emotions crashing over me. Ellen, the love of my life. How could she do this to me? How could she betray me in such a way? Was I that blind? Had I missed something? Or had she been hiding this from me all along? I don't know how long I stood there, motionless, staring at the phone. Finally, I put it down on the counter, trying to breathe through the panic tightening in my chest. I should have been angry. I should have confronted her right then and there. But instead, I felt an overwhelming sense of defeat. I couldn't even think straight. How could I approach her? How could I ask the one question that was burning in my mind? How long? I wasn't ready to face her. Not yet. I didn't know what to do with this information, this new version of reality that was slowly sinking in. So I did what anyone in my position would do. I sat down, buried my face in my hands, and tried to collect myself. But I couldn't stop replaying Ben's words over and over in my mind. She's been with me for months. Months. How many moments had I missed? How many times had I looked at her and thought she was happy, when all along, she was lying to me? I couldn't just let this go. I had to find out the truth. I had to know how deep this went, what kind of web she had woven behind my back. And I was going to get answers, no matter what it took. That night, when Ellen came home, everything would change. That evening, Ellen walked through the door, and it was as if nothing had happened. She smiled at me, like she always did, set her bags down on the counter, and started talking about her day. I don't know why, but I felt like I was drowning in the sound of her voice. She sounded so normal, so unaware of the storm that was brewing inside me. She had no idea that I knew everything. I tried to stay calm. I tried to pretend like nothing was wrong. She was talking about some work project, telling me how busy her day had been, how much she had to catch up on. But all I could think about was that phone call. The words, "I've been seeing your wife," echoed in my mind. How could she act so normal after what I had just learned? As she continued to talk, I watched her. Really watched her. There was something about her that seemed off, though I couldn't pinpoint it. She was acting so effortlessly casual, as though nothing had changed between us. But something had changed. Everything had changed. I was on edge, my heart pounding in my chest as I tried to keep up with her conversation. I nodded, responding when I had to, but my mind was elsewhere. It was on him, and the secrets he had just shared with me. It was on how many nights she had spent away from me, and I'd never even questioned it. I didn't know how much longer I could keep this up, acting like I didn't know what she was doing behind my back. But I had to wait. I had to be smart. I wasn't going to let her see how shaken I was. Not yet. "I'll make us dinner tonight," she said, walking into the kitchen. She didn't even seem to notice that I wasn't following her. I could barely stomach the thought of sitting at the dinner table with her. How could I eat dinner with the woman who was betraying me, knowing what I knew? But I had no choice. I couldn't let her know that I had already seen her lies. As she moved around the kitchen, I watched her every movement. The way she hummed under her breath, the way she flicked her hair behind her ear, the way she looked so comfortable in her own skin. How could she look so carefree when I knew the truth? That's when it hit me. The one thing I hadn't considered yet. How long had she been lying to me? How deep did this go? Was Ben the only one, or were there others? Had I been oblivious to her infidelity for years, thinking everything was perfect, when in reality, she had been living a completely different life behind my back? It was overwhelming. And yet, in the midst of all this confusion and anger, I still couldn't bring myself to confront her. I still couldn't bring myself to ask her the one question that was tearing me apart. But the thing is, I wasn't stupid. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't just keep pretending. It wasn't healthy for either of us. I had to confront her. But not tonight. Not yet. I needed to prepare myself for what was coming. I needed to be sure of everything before I exploded. So, I sat there, silent, watching her prepare dinner, my thoughts racing. The calm before the storm. The only thing I could focus on was how I was going to destroy everything we had built, because I couldn't live in the lie anymore. The truth had already started to sink in, and there was no going back. The night dragged on, the silence between us more unbearable than anything I had ever experienced. Dinner was served, but I couldn't taste it. Every bite felt like sand in my mouth. I watched her, wondering how she could sit there so calmly, completely unaware that I knew everything. How long had this been going on? How long had I been living a lie? The thought of it made my stomach churn, but I couldn't look away. I kept telling myself to stay composed, to keep my cool. But I was starting to feel like I was suffocating under the weight of the truth. I couldn't keep pretending. Not when everything inside me was screaming to break free from this facade. I had to know more. After dinner, she went to the living room to watch TV. I could hear her laughing at something on the screen, but all I could think about was Ben. I couldn't shake the image of her smiling at him, the way she had sent him that picture. So casually, like it was nothing. Like it was just another part of her day. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to find out everything. I had to know what was really going on behind closed doors. I stood up, pretending I was going to get a drink. But in reality, I was heading for the office. I needed to look through her things, her emails, her messages, anything that would give me more clarity. The truth was right there in front of me, hidden behind layers of lies and half-truths. And tonight, I was going to uncover it all. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. The seconds felt like hours as I thought about what to do next. It was insane, I knew that. I was about to violate her privacy in ways I never thought I would. But at that moment, I didn't care. I had to know. I had to understand how deep her betrayal ran. I opened her email. For a moment, I hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if I misinterpreted the situation? But then I remembered the phone call. Ben's words echoed in my head again. "I've been seeing your wife." I took a deep breath and began scrolling through her inbox. Most of it was work-related stuff, boring stuff. But then I saw an email from a name I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat. I clicked it open. It was a simple message. "Can't wait to see you again. I miss you. Ben." There it was. Confirmation. Ben was not just some random guy. He was the one she had been seeing behind my back. And it wasn't just a fling. No, this was something deeper, something more serious. I read the message over and over again, each time feeling the sting of betrayal cut deeper. I knew I had to confront her now. There was no turning back. But before I did, I needed one more piece of the puzzle. I needed proof, something I could hold on to, something undeniable. I picked up my phone, sent Ben a message, and waited. I didn't know what I expected him to say. Maybe I thought he'd apologize or give me some kind of explanation. But when he replied, it wasn't what I was expecting at all. "I'm sorry, man. I never wanted it to happen this way. But I don't think she's been honest with either of us. You deserve to know the truth." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. She wasn't just lying to me. She was lying to him too. It was as if I had stumbled upon a twisted web of deceit, one where neither of us had ever been told the full story. I stared at my phone, my mind racing. My hands were shaking. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there. But I knew I had to be careful. I had to be smart. I couldn't let my emotions control this. I needed to handle this with precision, to get the truth out of her without letting her see the storm that was coming. I stood up and walked back into the living room. Ellen was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely oblivious to the bombshell that was about to drop. I looked at her, my heart pounding. It was now or never. But something inside me told me I had to wait just a little longer. I wasn't ready to let her off the hook just yet. Not until I had all the answers I needed. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Ellen, her face, her smile, everything about her. But now, every image was tainted with the knowledge that she had been hiding something from me, something huge. I tried to tell myself to sleep, to think it through calmly, but it was impossible. I had been living in a lie for months, maybe even years, and the weight of it was unbearable. The next morning, Ellen woke up as though nothing had changed. She kissed me on the cheek, made coffee, and went about her usual routine. But every movement she made felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I was dying inside, watching her pretend like everything was fine, like I wasn't holding the truth in my hands. At breakfast, she casually mentioned that she had a meeting later in the day. I nodded along, forcing a smile, but my mind was elsewhere. Every word she said, every glance she gave me, it all felt like a performance. I couldn't keep this up anymore. I had to confront her. But how? How could I look her in the eyes and ask the question that would change everything? I decided to wait until later, until she was settled in. The house was eerily quiet, and I found myself pacing the living room, rehearsing what I was going to say. I needed to get this right. If I did it wrong, she might lie again, try to cover it up. I couldn't let her spin this any longer. At 11 a.m., she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "I'll be back by 2, she said, but I didn't answer. Instead, I walked up to her, stood in front of her as she reached for the door handle. "Ellen," I said, my voice trembling slightly. She looked up, a little surprised, but still maintaining that same calm, innocent look. "What's up?" she asked. "Don't play dumb," I said, my voice now steady, the anger starting to boil up inside me. "I know what's been going on. I know about Ben." The silence between us was deafening. Her face dropped. I don't know what you mean," she stammered, clearly trying to gather herself, but I could see the panic in her eyes. "No more lies," I said, my voice sharp. "I know about the pictures, the texts, everything. You've been seeing him, haven't you?" For a moment, she didn't speak. Her lips trembled, her eyes searching mine for any sign of doubt, any opening to escape this moment. But there was none. "I'm sorry, Simon," she finally whispered, the words hanging in the air like a weight I couldn't lift. "I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. But it happened." I felt like I was drowning. "You didn't want to hurt me?" I echoed, disbelief creeping into my voice. "You think this doesn't hurt me? You think I don't feel every second of your lies?" She shook her head, tears starting to well up in her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. It just happened." The words felt like they were suffocating me. It just happened. That's what she thought was a valid excuse. I took a step back, my hands clenched into fists. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to feel this vulnerable. But the pain was too much. "So what now? Do I just pretend like everything's fine? Like you haven't been sleeping with another man?" "No," she said quickly. "No, I never wanted to hurt you, Simon. It was a mistake." "A mistake," I repeated, my voice rising. "A mistake is spilling coffee on your shirt, not destroying a relationship." She looked down at the floor, ashamed. "I was lonely, okay? You were always so focused on work, and I felt neglected. Ben was there for me. He listened to me in a way you didn't." I wanted to scream, to lash out at her, but I held back. I couldn't let my anger take over. I had to keep it together, at least for now. So what now? I asked, my voice low, but filled with a quiet rage. You just leave then? You just walk out of this marriage like it's nothing? She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes welled with tears, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had married. But I couldn't let that cloud my judgment. This wasn't about the past anymore. It was about the present, and the broken trust that would never heal. I don't know, Simon, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't know what to do anymore. I looked at her, trying to hold back the flood of emotions threatening to break through. You've already made your choice, Ellen. You just don't know it yet. And with that, I turned around and walked away. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I didn't want her to say another word. The truth was out there now, and there was no going back. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and I stood there, my heart racing. I couldn't believe what had just happened. My mind was still reeling, trying to process everything. She was gone, but it felt like she'd already left long before today. I sank onto the couch, staring at the empty space where she had been just moments ago. My thoughts kept circling back to that phone call, to the picture of her with Ben, to the way she had looked me in the eye and still lied. I had never felt so completely betrayed in my life. The quiet in the house was suffocating, and I could almost hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. What was I supposed to do now? Was there even a way back from this? I could hear my phone buzzing on the table, but I didn't move to pick it up. It was probably her, trying to explain, to apologize. But I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear anything from her right now. But it buzzed again and again. I knew I couldn't ignore it forever. I picked it up, my hands still trembling. The screen lit up with a name I didn't want to see, Ben. I stared at the text for a long moment, my chest tightening. Simon, I know you're angry. I never wanted to hurt you. But Ellen has been struggling for a long time. She wasn't getting what she needed from you, and I just happened to be there. I felt sick reading those words. This was the man who had stolen my wife from me. The man who had made a mockery of everything I had worked so hard to build. And yet, there was a part of me that couldn't help but feel sorry for him. No, that wasn't it. I wasn't feeling sorry for him. But I was furious. Furious at Ellen, at Ben, at myself for letting things go on for so long without seeing the truth. I slammed my phone down, as if that could make it all go away. But it didn't. The reality was still there, hanging over me. Ellen's betrayal. The life we had built was crumbling, and there was no way to stop it. But one thing was certain, I wasn't going to let this go. Not without getting answers. I was done being the victim. It was time to take control of my own story. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I couldn't focus on anything, couldn't even hold a coherent thought. Every time I tried to distract myself, all that would echo in my mind were Ben's words, Ellen's face as she tried to justify herself. She hadn't even apologized. Not properly. She hadn't begged for forgiveness. Instead, she'd acted like the whole thing had been a mistake, something she had no control over. But that wasn't the truth. I knew it. She knew it too, even if she wouldn't admit it. The truth was that Ellen had made a choice. She had chosen him. I spent the evening pacing around the apartment, wondering what my next move should be. I could feel my blood boiling every time I thought about what she had done. How could she just throw everything away? How could she betray me like that? We had built a life together, and it meant nothing to her. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't just sit around and let her walk away from this. I had to confront her, but in a way that would make her see what she had really lost. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Ellen. Simon, please. I know I've hurt you. I'm so sorry. I'm going to figure this out. I don't want to lose you. It was a typical response. Nothing genuine, nothing that showed real remorse. She wasn't sorry. She was just trying to salvage whatever she could from the wreckage. I stared at the screen for a long time, feeling a mix of anger and disappointment. But I wasn't going to fall for it. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. I didn't reply. I didn't want to. Instead, I decided to do something else. I had to take control of this situation, and that meant doing what I had been avoiding. I grabbed my jacket and left the apartment. The night was cold, and the streets were quiet. I didn't have a specific destination in mind, but I needed to clear my head. I needed to think. I didn't know how much longer I could keep pretending everything was fine. But at that moment, I had no choice. I had to figure out what to do next. I ended up walking to the park a few blocks away. It was always my place to think, to escape when things got too overwhelming. The swings creaked softly as the wind picked up, but I barely noticed. I sat on the bench, staring out at the empty space in front of me. I was angry. More than angry. I was hurt, betrayed, and completely lost. How had I ended up here? How had my life, my marriage, come to this? I couldn't stop replaying the events of the past few months. The late nights, the unexplained absences, the way she had pulled away from me. I should have seen it. I should have noticed the signs. But I didn't. I was blind to it all, wrapped up in my own little world, thinking everything was fine. And now it was too late. I felt my phone buzz again, snapping me out of my thoughts. Another message from Ellen. I'm coming home. We need to talk. I stared at the message for a long time, my mind racing. We need to talk. I had no idea what she was going to say, but I knew one thing for sure. This was the beginning of the end. I wasn't going to make it easy for her. No more apologies, no more pretending. When she came home, I would be ready. When the door opened later that evening, I was already sitting in the same spot on the couch, my mind racing through every possible scenario. Ellen walked in with that same familiar air of confidence she always had. But this time, I could see the cracks in her demeanor. She knew the game was up. She shut the door quietly behind her and turned to face me. Her eyes avoided mine, and for a moment, the silence was thick with everything that had been left unsaid. She didn't speak at first, which only made the tension between us even more unbearable. I was the one to break it. So you want to talk now? My voice came out colder than I intended, but there was no hiding the hurt anymore. The anger, the confusion, it was all mixing together inside me. She took a breath, running her hand through her hair, clearly trying to compose herself. I'm sorry, she finally said, her voice soft, almost pleading. I know I've messed everything up. I shook my head, barely able to contain the rage bubbling inside me. Sorry doesn't cut it, Ellen. You don't get to apologize now. Not after everything you've done. Her face crumpled slightly, and I saw the first real sign of regret, genuine regret, flicker across her features. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was lonely, and I made a mistake. I laughed bitterly, almost in disbelief. A mistake? This isn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up groceries or saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. You didn't just forget something, Ellen. You've been lying to me, living a whole other life without any regard for the one we had. She stepped forward, reaching out like she wanted to touch me, but I pulled back instinctively. I couldn't let her close. Not yet. Please, just listen. No. I cut her off, feeling the tears start to well in my eyes. I wiped them away quickly, not wanting her to see how much this was destroying me. You don't get to tell me how I should feel, Ellen. You don't get to tell me that now you're sorry. Where was the apology before? Where was the honesty? The loyalty? She paused, her eyes welling up with tears as she realized that nothing she could say would fix this. I've always loved you, Simon. I still do. I'm so sorry I hurt you. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. I stood up suddenly, the anger now overwhelming. You don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have done this. If you loved me, you wouldn't have gone behind my back, behind the walls of everything we built. Her body trembled, but she didn't back down. I was scared, okay? I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. I didn't feel connected to you like I used to. And when Ben came along, he listened to me in ways you stopped doing. It didn't mean I didn't care about you. I was lost. Lost, I echoed, the disbelief obvious in my voice. Is that the excuse you're going with? I worked my ass off for us, for our future, and you throw it all away because you were lost? I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head in disbelief. You could have talked to me, Ellen. You chose this. And now, there's nothing left to salvage. She stepped back, biting her lip as if trying to hold it together. I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted to break us apart. But you need to know, it's not just about Ben. My heart stopped. What do you mean, it's not just about Ben? She hesitated before answering. There's been other things. I've been pushing you away for a long time now. It wasn't just Ben that I was looking for. It's something deeper than that, Simon. I don't even know how to explain it. I've been running away from everything. From you, from us. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. She had been running from me. I stood there, motionless, as the weight of her confession settled on me. This wasn't just about a fling or a bad decision. It was about something bigger, something deeper. The woman I had known, the woman I loved, had been so disconnected from me that she felt she had no choice but to turn to someone else. And in doing so, she had ripped apart everything we had. I couldn't breathe. So where do we go from here, Ellen? Is there even a way back from this? She shook her head, unable to answer. Because deep down, she knew what I already did, that there was no way back. I took a step back, feeling the weight of everything hit me all at once. I don't think I can do this anymore, I whispered. I don't think I can ever look at you the same way again. Her face crumpled in pain, and for the first time since all of this began, I felt a small spark of pity for her. But that was quickly replaced by the overwhelming sense of betrayal I had been carrying since the moment I found out the truth. She opened her mouth to speak again, but I cut her off, turning away. No, Ellen, it's over. I need time to figure out what's left of me, what's left of us. And right now, there's nothing left. She didn't fight me. She just stood there, silently crying as I walked past her, out of the room. There was no going back from this. The pieces of my life, of our life together, had shattered, and there was no glue strong enough to put them back together again. The next few days felt like a blur. I didn't know how to function, how to carry on with life, when everything I thought I knew had fallen apart. Ellen moved out that week, and the silence that filled the apartment was almost unbearable. But as the days passed, the weight on my chest began to lift, little by little. I spent my days reflecting on the past, on the choices we made, and most importantly, on what I wanted for the future. There was a part of me that still missed her. I won't lie. Despite the betrayal, despite everything, there were memories that couldn't be erased, moments that I would always cherish. But I realized something important. I couldn't live in those moments forever. I had been lost in a relationship that had faded long before the final confrontation. Ellen wasn't the woman I had married anymore, and I wasn't the man I had been when we first met. We both changed, and in the end, that's what made us drift apart. But it didn't mean I had to stay broken. One morning, after days of sleepless nights, I woke up and realized I had been too focused on the past. I wasn't going to let the mistake define me. I was stronger than this. I had to start living again, not for Ellen, not for anyone else, but for me. I began taking small steps. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected, people I hadn't spoken to in years. I started picking up old hobbies I'd abandoned in the name of busy work. I began running again, something I used to love, feeling the fresh air in my lungs and the clarity that came with every step. And then, one day, as I was at a cafe enjoying a rare moment of peace, I saw her. Ellen. She looked different, more at peace. Her eyes weren't filled with guilt anymore, but with a certain calm that only came with time and reflection. She saw me too, and for a moment, we just stood there, facing each other, neither of us sure what to do. Finally, she took a step forward. Simon, how are you? I smiled faintly. I'm getting there. It's been hard, but I'm okay. I think I'm okay. She nodded slowly, the sincerity in her expression clear. I'm sorry for everything. I wish I had handled things differently. I know, I said, but I can't change what happened. All I can do now is move forward. There was a brief silence between us. I could see that she was still hurting, but I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't feel the sting of betrayal in my chest when I looked at her. The pain had faded, replaced with a quiet understanding. I hope you find what you're looking for, Simon, she said softly. I gave her a gentle smile. You too. As she walked away, I realized something important. Forgiveness wasn't about excusing the past, but about freeing myself from its grip. And in that moment, I truly felt free. I walked away from the cafe, not looking back. The future was mine to shape, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what was to come. I was ready to live again. And that, I realized, was the most powerful thing I could ever do.